Today we're going to learn how to install the Tandemkross Firestarter Firing Pin and the Eagles Talon Extractor for the FN502. Feel free to use the chapters in the description to navigate. For the purpose of this video, we painted the parts orange just so you can follow along and they'll be easier to see, but the parts do come in black. The tools you'll need for this installation are the T10 Torx tool, tape or a punch block. We're going to use the tape as a punch block, a 3/32 drift punch, a small flathead screwdriver, a small mallet for the punches, and we recommend small punches just for poking and prodding, eye protection because we are working with small springs, and because we're doing a full takedown, it might be convenient to have a cleaning tool such as a brass nylon brush to clean as you go. First things first, let's make sure the firearm is clear and safe by taking out the magazine. Next, make sure your chamber is clear. We have a flag in ours, but let's go ahead and double check just to be safe. Make sure there's nothing in there. Lock the slide back and then twist the takedown lever downwards. Push the slide forward and off the grip frame. You can now take your grip frame and set it aside. The next step is to take your recoil spring and remove it by compressing it forward and pulling down. And then you can remove the barrel by pushing it through the bottom of the slide. Both of these parts can be set aside for later. Next, we're going to be removing the slide cap assembly by using the T10 Torx wrench and removing the screws on the slide cap. Once you've removed the screws, you can go ahead and just pull up on the slide cap to remove it. It's important to note that on the bottom of the slide cap assembly and the top of the slide, there are divots that hold little O-rings. They're extremely easy to lose, so don't lose those. If you're wondering why we don't have any, well, that's why. Next, we're going to be using the T10 Torx tool once again to loosen the shield assembly screws. You only need to loosen these as we're just going to be taking out the steel slide insert. Once you've loosened those up enough, you can now remove the steel slide insert in the back by tipping it towards the muzzle end and out. Go ahead and set that aside for now. You can now fully remove the two screws on the shield assembly. Once you've removed both of the screws, you can lift up the slide, push in the firing pin, hold it in, and the plate will come off. Make sure to keep the firing pin held in for the next step. With the firing pin still being pushed forward, set the slide down and let go of the pin to release the firing pin block and block spring. It's going to come out the bottom, so just be careful. Let go of the firing pin slowly, lift up, and there's your block and spring. Go ahead and set those aside together, as well as the shield screws and the shield cap. Next, you're going to want to grab your flathead screwdriver, and we're going to be removing the firing pin spring. Push the spring forward towards the muzzle and then gently lift up. You can then pull out the spring and plunger. Be careful not to lose these parts. Go ahead and set them aside. You can now remove the factory firing pin just by lifting up and pulling it out. Go ahead and set that aside. This is a good point to install the extractor, but if you want to just see the Firestarter firing pin, go ahead and skip ahead. We're going to be using the punch now to remove a pin through the top of the slide. So grab that punch block or a roll of tape. Put the slide upside down on the roll of tape or punch block. Grab your 3/32 punch, insert it into the hole, and hit it a few times with the mallet. Out the bottom, there'll be a retaining roll pin that will come out. Go ahead and make sure you don't lose that. It's really important. Go ahead and set that aside. Go ahead and remove the punch. And then now we're going to be using the flathead to pry out the extractor insert out the side of the slide. So in this orientation, we're kind of wedging it in and pushing it downwards towards the side of the slide. Have some patience with this one, it might take a little bit. Once it's hanging out the side of the slide, go ahead and just pull it out with your fingers. And here you have your extractor insert. To remove the extractor, grab that small punch, push the extractor in, and then forward, and it will snap out. Next, insert a screwdriver through the viewing window on the insert, push the plunger down, and then you can pull out the extractor with your fingers. After you've removed the extractor, make sure you have your finger over the top where the extractor was. Go ahead and pull out that screwdriver. That will prevent the plunger from falling out. Go ahead and set aside the extractor. This is a good opportunity to hit this with a nylon brush. These get gunked up pretty easily. And since you have the gun already taken apart, use this to your advantage. Now grab your Tandemkross extractor. And once again, this part does not come in orange. We just wanted to make it easier to see for the install process. Next, we're going to be removing the plunger from the extractor insert. You can go ahead and push it up with a punch and then grab it with your fingers. Once removed, you can see that the plunger has a little cut in the top of it, and that's going to line up with your extractor like this. Next, grab your insert and make sure you're holding it so the two pegs are on the left side. That side will correspond to that cut in the top of the plunger, so make sure you go ahead and put it in as shown here. And once the plunger is in its channel, you can go ahead and grab the Tandemkross extractor. And with the hook facing to the left and the cut from the plunger lining up with the extractor, go ahead and just push down. Sometimes you may need to use a screwdriver just to seat it in the right place with the plunger, but it usually snaps right in. It's actually pretty satisfying. If your extractor moves like this, you're good to go. Now we're going to reinstall the extractor insert. We're going to be inserting it in this orientation here. Push the insert back into the slide. Make sure that when it goes back in, it's nice and flush. Go ahead and once again grab the roll of duct tape or a punch block and grab the roll pin that we punched out earlier. Go ahead and flip the slide to its upwards orientation and drop that roll pin into the hole here. Tap the retainer pin with a mallet to get it started, and then grab your punch to finish it off. Double check to make sure the roll pin is recessed into the slide. You've now completed the install for the Eagles Talon Extractor. We're going to move on to the firing pin now. So if you skipped ahead or are installing both parts, now we're going to move on. Go ahead and grab your firing pin plunger and spring. Insert the plunger into the end of the spring, and then insert the spring and plunger into the slide by putting it in the front of the slot towards the muzzle end of the gun, like this. The firing pin needs to be in there for it to be compressed, so it'll kind of just hang out there. Next, grab your Tandemkross firing pin. With your finger over the spring and plunger so it doesn't shoot out, gently put the firing pin in place and push forward against the plunger and spring. You may need to manipulate it until it nestles into the slide. Once it fits itself into the channel, it should look like this. Next, we recommend grabbing a piece of tape and laying it over the spring. Make sure you wrap the tape around the sides of the slide and make sure it's secure. This is just an insurance policy to make sure we don't lose that spring. Next, we're going to grab our firing pin block and block spring. Next, flip your slide upside down. And in the window in the bottom is where the firing pin block and spring are going to go. When inserting the block, it's important to note that the more curved side on the block is going to go towards the rear of the slide. Go ahead and insert the block into the bottom of the slide. Now that the block is inside the slide, cover it with your finger because we're now going to flip the slide and we don't want it to fall at the bottom. When you flip it over, you should see the block poking out of the top. Next, grab your block spring and insert it into the hole in the block. Remember to keep that finger you have under the slide under the block so you don't lose the block or spring. You can go ahead and peel off the tape now. Next, we're going to be reinstalling the shield plate. The top is going to be the side with the countersinks as you see here. With your finger still held on the bottom of the block, line up the circular divot on the plate with the block spring and place the plate on the slide. Next, push forward on the firing pin and down on the plate until it goes into place. Once the plate is in place, you can go ahead and move that finger that's been securing the bottom of the block. At this point in the installation, if you put your finger over the plate and push on the firing pin, you should get very little movement, and that's how it should be. And if you push on the bottom of the block and then push the firing pin, you should get a lot more movement. If you look through this little window here and you don't see the spring, that means you're good to go. If you do see the spring, that means you need to remove the plate and reseat the spring. Next, we're going to reinstall the steel insert into the back of the slide. For orientation, you'll see that there are two ears on either side of this insert, as well as a thinner front side. The thin side is going to be hooked into the back of the slide, like this. It will just drop flush and straight down in. Next, grab your two Torx screws that you removed from the plate earlier. Drop them into the top of the plate in these holes here and tighten them with the Torx tool. Now, if you didn't lose your O-rings like us, you would put them here in these two pockets. Next, we're going to install the slide cap assembly. Those O-rings would go in those pockets underneath it. We're going to go ahead and move on without ours. Place the slide cap assembly on top with the rear sight towards the rear of the slide, and reinsert the Torx screws that we removed in the beginning of the video. Take your Torx tool and go ahead and secure both. Next, grab your barrel and insert it back into the slide like this. Next, grab your recoil spring and with the sliding end towards the front, slide it into the front of the slide. Then push the rear of the recoil spring forward and up into the groove on the bottom of the barrel. Now you can grab your grip frame and slide the slide onto the rails of the frame and pull it back as if you're charging it. Lock the slide back and then turn the takedown lever counterclockwise until it's back into its original position. Now just drop your slide and you've finished the install. Thank you for watching this video. We hope you enjoy your new Tandemkross parts. If you have any questions or anything, feel free to leave them in the comments below or give us a call. We'll see you next time. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share this video on whatever social media platform you use. I'm Luke with Tandemkross, and we're here to make your good guns great. Keep up with us on social media for daily updates. I'll see you next time.